from the computer will start from the Ethernet port and connect to the chassis communications module's Ethernet port. Most likely, the cable routing will go through an Ethernet switch, like the Allen-Bradley Stratix, which may also provide switching connections to other ControlLogix systems in the network, and/or also remote subsystems. The communication settings between the computer and the Ethernet module are accomplished by RSLinx, which is a Windows-based communication software package developed by Rockwell Software to interface to all the Rockwell's and Allen-Bradley's industrial control and automation hardware. RSLinx is used to create a driver, which, in simple terms, is a piece of software that sets up the communication between two hardware points. In this case, between the Ethernet port in the computer and the port on the Ethernet communications module. Some other types of drivers that you may have heard of include printer drivers, scanner drivers, mouse drivers, and others. RSLinx can be considered the communicator in a ControlLogix system, since it directs all communication involving loading, downloading, and online monitoring during troubleshooting using the Studio 5000 software. As we'll see, the Studio 5000 software will call on RSLinx in the background to establish the communication path to be used when the driver is created. Before a driver is created using RSLinx, several network settings have to be made in the computer. These settings may have already been made at your facility, but it is incredibly helpful to understand how it's done. You never know when you have to troubleshoot a ControlLogix system and you find out that the driver is not installed in the computer you're using. This process is rather easy once we know what has to be done. The network settings involve the assignment of Internet Protocol, or IP addresses, to the computer's Ethernet port or connector, and also to the Ethernet communications module. Think of the IP address as a unique phone number where two parties can connect, in this case via the Ethernet network. The IP addresses for the communications module in the ControlLogix chassis will most likely be defined by the programmer and will show on the scrolling display of the Ethernet module. If the ControlLogix chassis is powered and the Ethernet communications module does not display the IP address, it may be that the cable is not well placed in the network port, or that the module is not connected to a network. For example, in this chassis, the Ethernet cable is not connected, and the chassis has been powered down and put back on, and the scrolling display shows link lost. Once you connect the cable, you can see that the IP address returns and scrolls across the module's display. In this case, the IP address of the communications module is 192.168.1.23. In communication circles, sometimes the mentioning of the dot is omitted when saying an IP address, which can be said as 192.168.1.23. Basics of networks. While this is not intended to be a training program on networks, it is a good idea to go over some basics of networking before we start assigning a network address to our computer. Let's first take a look at the components of a network configuration. A basic network has three components that help identify the devices connected in the network.